Speaker alignment, speaker tuning, taking measurements, reading those measurements, taking decisions based on the measurements you took. A bit over a year ago, some of you asked me to make a video about how to use smart or open sound meter with your M32 console. And honestly, back then I didn't have enough confidence in measurements. Lately, I've been diving deeper into it. If taking measurements is the main part of your job, ideally you would want to have your own little interface with your computer that you can take around, and that will be your working system. However, for a lot of you, that's not even a small part of your job. So I understand that you wouldn't want to carry extra gear. So in this video, I'm gonna show you how to use Open Sound Meter because it's free with your M32 console and with the MR18. And I'm really gonna try my best to simplify things as much as possible because the purpose of this video is for you to actually learn something and apply it in real life. When I was getting into this, it all seemed very difficult and overwhelming. So I'm gonna try my best to explain what each thing means and how do you read the measurement to be able to take a decision from the measurement you took, because otherwise this whole thing is useless. First, I'll explain the overarching concept and then I'll show you what to do on the mixer. In order to know what the speakers are doing or what the room is doing to your sound, first you need a sound, right? You need a sound and you're gonna send that sound through your system. And that sound will go out of the speakers and you will hear it. Now that sound that is coming out of the speakers, you need somehow to capture it, right? So you need the measurement microphone. You're putting a sound in, you're getting sound out, and you're capturing it. How do you know what's the difference between what you put in and what you put out? You compare them. And Open Sound Meter, or SMART, is doing exactly that. It's comparing the original signal that we call reference to the measurement signal, that is whatever is being heard in the room. And it will show you the difference between these two signals. Now, a lot of people use pink noise. It doesn't have to be pink noise. You can use music, you can use your voice, you can use anything. Any two signals, that software will compare them together. Now, why do we use pink noise? It's just because it has all the frequencies at equal power, not equal amplitude. Equal power means we perceive them as having all the same volume and it sounds pleasant. And also because it has a very small dynamic range. So the difference between the loudest peak and the quietest part is very small. It's not very dynamic, and consistent sound makes it easier to take measurements. Okay, so that's just why we use pink noise. For the first method, we're gonna be generating the noise from the computer from Open Sound Meter, because not all mixers have a signal generator. The M32 does have a signal generator. I can generate pink noise from it. The MR18 does not have a signal generator. Usually, if you're using your own interface, something like this, okay, you're gonna send out the pink noise from the output of the interface into the input of the mixer, any channel, to send it out of the speakers. And then you would send another output from the interface and loop it back into the input of it and get your measurement microphone and plug it into the input of the interface. And so you have two inputs. One is the reference, one is the measurement, and you can compare them. Now on the mixer, it's gonna be the exact same thing. So I'm gonna plug my computer into the mixer with a USB cable, type B to type A, or if you have a different expansion card, it's gonna be whatever connection you have. As for the connections, you're gonna take your measurement microphone. It's a condenser microphone, so you'll have to turn on phantom power for it and plug it into your mixer. I just always wanted to do that, to plug a microphone without a cable. So just plug it into any empty channel on your mixer, and then you're gonna take another cable and plug one of the outputs of your mixer to another input. This is Open Sound Meter. Don't get overwhelmed. These are measurements I took at church a few days ago, and we'll get into all of that. But let's make a new workspace. I'm gonna hit Control and N, or you can just go here to File, create a new workspace. Yes, because Open Sound Meter keeps whatever settings you used last. So that's why I had to open a new workspace to reset everything. If you use it for the first time, it might look something like this. So go up here where it says single, click on it, and say 3. I like to have the impulse response on the top window and the magnitude trace on the bottom window right here. And in the middle, I will have the phase. However, when I'm measuring, I will have the coherence, and we'll get to what that means. And right now it's going crazy because it's reading my microphone that I'm talking into and it's not set up properly. So with this program, you can see there's not a lot of buttons you can press. Whatever you click on, then you will see the controls on the bottom right here. Okay, I click on here, I see the controls, click on here, see the controls. So I want the controls for the measurement. I click on the measurement. Here we go. Right here, I can choose which interface I'm using. So if you have your mixer plugged into your computer, right here, I have the M32 USB. That's it. That's the sound card of my mixer. And you can see I have all 32 channels. And the same thing if you're using the MR18, you will have also that right here. However, with the Behringer mixers, I tried once and it needed a driver. So just make sure you have the appropriate driver. I downloaded that from the Behringer website. So just if your mixer is not showing up in here, you might need a driver. But if you're already recording multi-tracks and your computer recognizes your mixer, you're good to go. You don't have to do anything extra. Just pick the sound card of your mixer, and then right here, M stands for measurement and R stands for reference. So since I plugged the measurement microphone into input number 16, I will go right here to M and choose number 16.
Assuming you didn't change any of the default routing for the card.
And my reference will be number 15. Because I plugged output number 1 into input number 15. So I'm going to choose 15 as my reference and we're ready to go. Now it's still going crazy because it's not comparing the signal. It's getting into anything else because I'm not generating a signal yet. So I'm going to click on the generator right here and I can see the settings for the generator. So I'm going to go right here and click on it and choose the same interface, which is the DM32 USB. That is the mixer. And right here, I'm going to choose out number 1. So the signal that I will generate will go out to channel 1 on the USB sound card. Then I'm going to choose pink noise and I'm gonna make it at -18, or you can do -12. I noticed that with this generator, -12 here is equivalent to -18 on the mixer, but we'll get to that. So I'll just leave it at -12 right now. Now, if I turn on the generator, I still don't hear anything because it's not going into the mixer yet. So now I need to go to the mixer to make it get that pink noise that I'm generating right here. Go to routing, aux in remap in the inputs page, and I'll set it to card 1.2. So right now, aux1 is getting the input from card number 1, which is being fed by the generator. If I turn off the generator, I don't have any signal. If I turn it on, by the way, the shortcut is Control G, turn off and on the generator. You can see I have signal right here. That's it. You can hear it.
On the MR18, select the auxiliary channel. Go to the Input tab. Click on USB. Choose USB 1.2. And in Open Sound Meter, generate the noise on card 1 and 2.
That is still not going out of output number 1. So I'm gonna select mix bus number 1 and send that signal to mix bus number 1 at 0 dB. And then I'm gonna raise the fader of mix bus number 1 to 0 dB also. If I look at channel 15, I can see that's exactly the signal that I'm sending out from Open Sound Meter. Okay, so that is the reference signal. I'm gonna call that reference. And you can see right here, it's roughly around -18. That's why I told you that in Open Sound Meter, if you set the generator with pink noise to -12, it reads it as -18 on the mixer. Usually I like to shoot for -18 because that's where the green meets the yellow on the meters of the mixer. Now you might be asking, can't I set the output to send out that signal directly without passing through the aux and the bus? Yes, I can, but I don't want to complicate stuff. I can go to the routing and go to out 1 to 16
and make it a direct out from the aux or set it to user. On the MR18, you can send a USB input directly out of an XLR output.
On the M32, you can do that with the local XLR outputs on the back of the mixer, but you cannot do that with a stage box.
So in any case, what I'm showing you makes more sense. On both mixers, so I'm getting the pink noise on an aux channel, and then I'm sending that aux channel to a bus, and that bus will go out of an output. So you connect that XLR output to an input on your mixer. And whatever comes into that input will be your reference signal that you are reading right here in Open Sound Meter. That's the reference. And my microphone is plugged into input 16. Now, before you take a measurement, there's still something you need to do. Click on the measurement to see the controls. And right here under transform mode, I'm gonna choose LTW, which stands for logarithmic time window. Each time you double the frequency, it's an octave. 125 to 250, that's an octave. 250 to 500, that's an octave. 500 to 1K, that's an octave. 1K to 2K, octave. 2K to 4K. Each time you double the frequency, it's an octave. If you look right here in that octave, between 2K and 4K, how many frequencies are there? 2000 frequencies. Right here, between 125 and 250, how many frequencies are there? 125 frequencies. So in the higher octaves, there are a lot more frequencies in the same octave.
We would have to choose a very big time constant to get good resolution in the low frequencies. which means half of all the points is in the top octave from 10 to 20 kilohertz. That's not very helpful. Logarithmic time window distributes all the points evenly for each octave.
So I'm going to select logarithmic time window, averaging type, I'll keep it to low pass filter at 0.25 frequency. Han, this is a work frame. It says here, right here, window function. It's a work frame that the measurement is working within. It doesn't matter which one you choose as long as you're choosing one. For the purpose of taking measurements for tuning speakers, it really doesn't make a difference which one you choose, as long as you are within a work frame. Right here, you don't have the option to not be in one. So just leave it on hand. Right here, it says Z, which applies a weighting on the measurement. So A weighting focuses more on the higher frequencies and doesn't put as much emphasis on the lower frequencies. C weighting is a bit more broadband, but puts less weight on the very high frequencies and very low frequencies. And Z weighting is no weighting, doesn't emphasize certain frequencies over others. It just takes everything in. Okay, so now we can take a measurement. Hold on, before you blast pink noise and blow out your speakers and everybody's hearing, I'm saying that because a lot of people have their speaker levels set way too loud. And I made an entire video about that. I'll link it up here in the corner. So right now you have the pink noise coming into the aux channel. So you can use the fader of the aux channel to turn up or down the pink noise. Turn it up very slowly. If the fader is way too low and the sound in the room is already too loud, your speakers are way too loud. You need to turn them down. I found in my own personal experience that usually if you turn down the master level on your mixer by 20 dB, so minus 20 on your master or minus 20 on the matrix, depending on how you're feeding your speakers, that's usually a good start. But some speakers have a lot of juice, like the Beta 3 speakers I used once. I had them at a quarter volume and I set my output from the mixer to minus 38. Figure out your speaker levels and then send out your pink noise. After that, you'll have to set the preamp gain for a measurement microphone. You can start somewhere around plus 35 dB and take it up or down from there. You want to have the measurement signal be at a similar level to the reference signal. So the reference is coming in at minus 18. So depending on how loud you have the pink noise in the room, you might need to turn up or down the preamp gain on the microphone to match it to the reference. Okay, but how loud do you need the pink noise to be in the room? There's a misconception that the louder the better. You need to blast pink noise at a very high level to get a good measurement. That's wrong. I tried it and the louder you push it, it doesn't improve anymore. So how do you know it's loud enough? You look at the RTA in Open Sound Meter, they call it spectrum, and you can see the noise floor in the room, what ambient noise exists in the room, and your pink noise should be 20 dB above that or more, okay? At least 20 dB. Not necessarily a lot more. As long as there is that difference between the ambient noise and the measurement signal, you're good. The software knows this is signal, this is noise. It's not too close together. So the pink noise doesn't have to be too loud and you don't have to scare everybody of suddenly. As long as it's at least 20 dB higher than the noise floor, you're good. Since I don't have a loudspeaker at home, I'll use my headphones. I'll put them in front of the measurement microphone. Right here, you can see the coherence. When I talk, it gets down. Stop talking, gets back up. And if you look here, you can see a delay time. It's guessing the delay. So I'm going to click on it and it will apply delay.
The signal takes some time to go through the system and out of the speakers. So we delay the reference signal to sync it with the measurement.
And when the delay is applied, you'll see that the coherence will go up because now the measurement signal matches with the reference signal. So I'll capture the measurement. To do that, I'll hit Control C. So what did just happen right now? Coherence is a measurement of the measurement. So it's telling me what data is good and what data is not good. So what can I use and what can I not use to make my decisions? If you look, you see a red line right here. I'll click in that window, and that red line is the threshold at which the program decides what is good data and what is bad data. And you can turn down the threshold, so you can tell it that down until 70%, I'll still accept that data. This is actually signal, not noise. Or you can turn it up and say that I only want to use data above 95% coherence. In other words, if I show you in a different window, I'll go right here to phase, and you can see right here that all the data that is a lot below the threshold is erased. I don't see it. Of course, I can click in that window and turn off fuse coherence, so I see all the data that is captured captured, but I'll just keep that on. For these frequencies, the software is not sure if this is noise or actual signal that I can use. And I just want to say that right now, in real life, you will rarely ever have perfect coherence throughout the frequency range. The best coherence you can get is if you're, first of all, in a treated room. Second of all, your microphone is very close to your speaker, so it's listening to the sound of the speaker directly before any reflections. Usually reflections and reverb will cause the coherence to drop.
This is a real-life measurement that I took at my church.
You can see that the coherence is not that perfect. And that isn't necessarily a very bad thing. It doesn't mean that you can't use your measurement at all. It just means that if the coherence is very low on certain frequencies, you know that you can't make decisions based off of that. Okay, so now we know that this measurement is usable. Let's go to the next most important trace, which is the magnitude. And when I was getting into measurement, I was really confused about that because if you look at the graph, here it's frequencies at the bottom and on the side it's decibels. Now let's look at the RTA, real-time analyzer. Here you have frequencies and here you have decibels. What's the difference between RTA and the magnitude? The difference is that the RTA is a one-channel measurement. It's an absolute thing. It's not being compared to anything else. It just tells you whatever exists in the room. So right now, if I snap my fingers or clap in front of the microphone, you can see it's changing. I have these frequencies in the room at that loudness. But when it comes to tuning your speakers, this information is not really helpful because these frequencies exist in the room regardless of what your speakers are giving you. So this is not showing you the truth. The magnitude, however, is a dual channel measurement. It's a comparison between what you're putting in and what you're getting out. So if you're putting that pink noise into the system, are you getting that same pink noise out of the system or is that sound being changed? And the magnitude shows you what frequency is being changed and by how much. And also there's a very big difference between the RTA and the magnitude. Regardless what is the signal that you're putting in, if the signal you're getting out is the same, this will be flat. With an RTA, if you have a lot of bass, no mids, and a lot of highs, you'll have that smiley face kind of shape. With the magnitude, that's not the case. It will be flat. And I'll show you, I'll demonstrate that. That's the pink noise that I'm sending into the system. And if I cue that, like so, you can see that the RTA is showing me the absolute sound. That's what I'm sending into the system. However, the magnitude is showing me flat. Why is that? Because the magnitude is comparing what I'm putting in to what I'm getting out. It's not telling me that in my signal I have this much 500 Hertz and this much 1K. It's just a comparison. So regardless of the actual signal that I'm putting into the system, if I'm getting the same signal out of the system, the magnitude will be flat. Okay, this took me a while to understand, but that's it. RTA shows me the absolute signal. Magnitude shows me the difference between what I'm putting in and what I'm getting out. And also the magnitude allows me to see how much louder or how much quieter is the sound that I'm getting out. So if I turn on the measurement that I took earlier with my headphones, measurement is down here because compared to the reference signal, this is how much lower the measurement is, 15 dB lower. So after I take the measurement, I can change the gain of that curve. So if I click on what I captured, I can go here and adjust the gain. I can turn it up. My measurement was so low because I don't want to turn up the headphones so much. I don't want to blow them. They are not a loudspeaker. Okay. If my headphones were giving me exactly the same sound that I was putting into them, this trace would have been flat. 4.4K. It's bumping by 8 dB. Anything below 700 is pretty much nothing because it's not a subwoofer, it's a headphone. And also we perceive the bass in the headphones because there's a seal. If you're just listening to them not on your ears, you will not hear that bass. So this explains why the curve looks like this. In that measurement, I can also not only adjust the gain, I can flip the curve entirely, compare things if I have multiple measurements, and I can also inverse the polarity. So if you look up here at the impulse response, you can see that when I flip the polarity, it becomes upside down. If it's going up first and then down, means this is in polarity. If it's going down first, then up, this is out of polarity. And this is also how you can know if your speakers are wired correctly. And also you can delay the measurement. So let's say I have multiple measurements. I'll show you in a bit, but I can delay this. And if I look right here at the phase, you can see that the phase changes because I'm delaying it compared to the reference signal. Okay, this is always a comparison between the reference and the measurement. It's not just the measurement. So when you see lines going down from left to right going down, it means the signal is delayed. It's late, and you can see that also by the impulse. This is time 0 and the impulse is right here. Back to time 0. You can see the phase, it's now all one line. And it doesn't have to be one line. Most often you'll see something like this. And when you're time aligning speakers, purpose basically is to have lines one on top of the other. So here's how you read the phase graph. You have frequencies and you have degrees. The phase plot is a circle, okay? So this is not going down and stopping and continuing from back up. It's not jumping from minus degree to plus degree. If I scroll with my scroll wheel, you can see this is continuous. Okay, it's like a wheel. Consider it like a cylinder. This is 0 degrees right here. This is 0, the middle line. So at 950 hertz, my measurement is exactly in phase with the reference. 0 degrees means in phase. At 250 hertz, it's late. When you see lines going down from left to right, it means the signal is late compared to the reference. And let's take another measurement just so you can see better. Okay, you can see that one is going up first, the other is going down first. So that's a polarity inversion. However, from the phase graph, you can actually see that. Let's take at 2000 hertz. I have 44 degrees minus 143. Combine these, 180. Okay, so that's how you know that you have a polarity inversion from the phase graph. And when you're aligning, let's say, mains to subwoofers, all you care to have is these lines being as close as possible. Ideally, if you can make them overlap, that would be perfect. You'd be in phase. So if you have something like this, you can delay it in the software to see how much delay you need and then apply it on your console or on your signal processor, and then you'd be in phase. But keep in mind, in phase does not mean in time. You can be in phase, like right here at 112 hertz. We are in phase. These two curves are crossing, which means they have the same phase for that frequency, but you can see from the impulse they are not in time. Okay, so phase and time are two different things. Make sure you are in time first, and if you still need to be in phase, you can delay it a little bit to make it in phase. With subwoofers though, with low frequencies in general, it's really difficult to get a good impulse. You will not see a peak. This peak is caused by high frequencies, so it will be kind of rounded. So you might need to use another method to make sure that your subs are in time first. Get something like tape measure or a digital tape measure, which is like laser that you can point at something and tells you the distance. So after you make sure that they are in time, you can take the measurement and make them in phase. Also, when you want to do the EQ to make your speakers flat, you can figure that out here in Open Sound Meter first. You don't have to guess and take 100 measurements and keep trying until you maybe get it right. Look what I'll do. Let's take these measurements, for example, 4 measurements. First of all, I want to average them together because I'm not going to make my decisions based on only one spot in the room. I want an overall picture of the room. So I'll create a math source, click Ctrl M, or you can go to File, Add Math Source. You'll get the vector sum right here, but I'm not doing summation. I'm going to click right here and go to average, and I'm going to select the type of average to be power average. Then I'm going to tell it how many traces I want to do. So let's do 4, and I'm going to choose them. It's this one, this one, this one, this one. Turn this on, and I can turn the others off. Here you go. I have an average of all these 4. Now, why did I choose power? Because if you choose vector, you'll get something different that doesn't look like the curve. So this is what makes sense. This is my sound in the room. So I want to apply EQ to it. So I'm going to make another math source, Control M, and this will be apply. How many? Let's do 6, because EQs usually have 5 bands, and the 6th thing is the actual average that I just made. So let's select the average right here, and let's create filter. I'm going to press Control F, create a filter, and the filter needs to be the same as the measurement. So if I took the measurement in logarithmic time window, the filter also needs to be in logarithmic time window. So I'm going to choose that, and filter type will be a peak filter. And let's see, what can I do? If I click in that window, I have points per octave, which is basically smoothing. So if I choose 1, it shows me a really smooth curve. The higher the number, the more detail I have in the curve. So let's start with 3, because I want to look at the overall trend. I'm not trying to EQ every single point. This is really difficult to make a decision. Where do I need to EQ? EQ. There's all these bumps. So I'm gonna go to 3 points per octave, and I can see right here I have a big bump at 800 hertz. So I'm gonna go to the filter and type in 800 hertz and start bringing it down. Now the filter isn't doing anything to the curve yet because I didn't tell it to do anything. So I'm gonna go back to the math source right here, and I'm gonna choose the filter, peak 1. If I turn on the math source, it shows me the result. So this purple is the curve with that filter applied. Let me turn the other one off so we can see what's changing in real time. I can keep going down, down, down. Here we go, minus 5 dB, I fixed that huge bump. I still have kind of a big bump around 130. So let me create another filter, Control F, and it will be a peak filter, the logarithmic time window, and I'll call it peak 2 at 130 hertz. And let me apply it in the math source. So I'll choose peak 2 right here, go back to that filter, turn down. As you can see, it's bringing it down. Now I still have that bump, maybe make it wider. I can make the Q a lower number so it affects more frequencies. If I do that at 150, that's pretty flat. That's really good with just 2 filters. You can see the before and after. That's the before, that's the after. Let me increase the points per octave to see more detail. I have a huge dip right here and a bump right here. I always like to take care of the bumps first. So let's make another filter, logarithmic time window, peak, and this will be at 6100. And let's apply that filter right here. I'll call it peak 3. And start turning down. Now you can see it's turning down a lot of frequencies. I don't want that. So I'm gonna raise the Q value to become narrower. You can see right here, I'm affecting less and less frequencies. So if I make the Q really narrow, turn this down, maybe make it even narrower. Q is now 5, which is quite narrow, and turn this down. That makes a lot of difference. Let me show you before and after. That's the before, that's the after. That's really flat with just 3 filters. Let's go to 12. I wouldn't do anything more than that. Maybe boost a little bit at 3K, but that really depends on the room. You'd have to listen because this is not magic. Okay, even if it looks pretty flat right here, you might not like how it sounds in the room. In fact, something that I did when I took the measurements in church was this. These are all the measurements that I took. We have 2 halls and 4 speakers in each hall. So I took a measurement in front of each one of the 8 speakers and also a measurement in the middle of the room between the speakers in the front and between the speakers in the back. I took all of these and averaged them together and then applied EQ to it. That's the average of all the speakers together. This is what I got, and I applied EQ to it. These are the filters that I applied, and I could make it like this. This looks flat, but it sounds kind of awful because we don't have subwoofers. Taking that bass out of it makes it really weak. So I kept some of the bass. So instead of turning down 150 hertz by 5 decibels to get it flat, I just turned it down by 1.5 dB. And I got this, the purple trace. And it sounded really good. And also in live sound, people use a target trace. If you click Control T, you'll get a target trace from Open Sound Meter, or you can get another one online. And basically the bass in live sound usually should be louder than the rest of the frequencies. If everything is flat, it feels very weak. So what I'm saying is this is really helpful to know exactly what to do and what frequencies to take out or boost before you even touch the EQ on the console. But you also have to listen. Even if it looks perfect on paper, it might not sound really good because of the room you're in or because of the speakers you're using. Sometimes if you need to do a lot of EQ to the speakers, it might ruin the sound of the speakers. They might sound weak or not very pleasant. So don't go overboard. First, look at the trend. What is going on? If I look at all these right here, look at all of them. What do I see? I see that there's a bump right here. There's the bump right here. And there's kind of harshness around here and here. And you can smooth it out to really see what's going on. Bump, bump, little bump, little bump. And also one thing I did, I boosted high frequencies because if I look right here, they are kind of going a little bit down too much. So I did a high shelf and boosted them and it looks perfect on paper. However, when I had multiple microphones open on stage and they are very close together, it would sometimes feedback, very high frequency feedback. So it was not worth it. I'm still boosting a little bit, but not as much as I thought I should have because of the measurement. Benefit of having that little bit extra crispiness in the speakers does not outweigh the disadvantage of feedback. So this is a tool to help you. You still have to listen. You still have to have common sense. Now, the method I showed you works on the M32 and also on the MR18. So to recap, plug your measurement microphone into an input, plug a cable into one of the outputs, and plug that cable into another input, and that will be your reference. Then from open sound meter, send the signal generator to USB 1 and receive that signal on the aux number 1, and then send that aux to a mix bus, and the output of that mix bus will be the output that you're taking the sound from and sending it back into an input to be the reference. Now, the second method that only works with the M32 or a console that has a signal generator inside of it. You don't need to generate the signal from open sound meter. You can generate it from the console. If you go to monitor, to the oscillator page, you have frequency generator. You will choose pink noise right here and set it to -18 dB. And you can turn on right here, make noise, and you can choose the destination. What you would do is you will select bus number 1 as the destination for the pink noise. Now I'm generating noise on bus number 1, raise the fader of bus number 1 to 0. And also you would want to have that bus on the main left right. So select it and go to the main tab, turn on main left right, so that this noise will go out of your speakers. Same thing. Connect the output 1, that is for bus number 1, to an input, and that will be your reference, and plug your reference microphone. That's it. That's the only difference. You're generating the noise from the mixer instead of generating it from your computer. But the rest is the same. I know it was a lot of information in one video, and I hope that things make more sense now to you. And when you start taking measurements and understanding what you're actually doing, it's kind of fun. It's not all that scary and daunting and overwhelming. So if you liked that video, make sure to hit the like button and click on the video on the screen right now, and I will see you there.